Mr. Jajusi, for your discourse on impacts of urbanization in the country.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Koma. Can you see my slide?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. That is my presentation. The impact of urbanization on land use in the Gambia. That is the outline of my presentation. I have 17 slides. I may not have to waste time on some of these things, but I will go straight to the point. And for the background, this is where I provided some definition of the term that will be discussed here, the land use and urbanization. And the definition for land use I'm taken from US paper 2022. And some of the reasons are the things that we use land for, some of these residential, transportation, commercial, agricultural, and recreational. And there are other purposes, reasons that things that we use land for, like for forestation and others. And for urbanization, there is a harmonized definition, and this is the definition that will show the Gambia. There's other definitions are there that will show cities, metropolitans, but the population of 5,000 and with a density of 300 inhabitants. And from there, I also provided a theory, like the pessimist and the optimist theory, that shows the linkage between population and other development-related areas. And like Malthus is a major contributor to the pessimist, whereas you have Gossirab and others contributing to the optimist theory, who emphasize a lot on technological change. They believe that if population do change, with technological change, that this can help us to address some of the population problems. And the drivers of urbanization, urban population growth. For a population to change, there are three major components there. That is the birth, death, and migration. What can we say that the population growth in the urban settlement is it due to increase in birth rate, or is it due to reduction in mortality rate, or is it because of migration, that is rural-urban migration, the rural drift, urban drift rather? So migration could play a very critical role to the increase in the urban population, mainly due to some of these reasons like industrialization, commercialization, social benefit services, and employment. Then this is data from the past population and housing census. Currently, the census the preparations are ongoing. I cannot have current data on this, the trend in urbanization and the dynamics, but I will just present this graph, the graph here, which describes what is in the table here. You can see Banjul and Kanifing are 100% urbanized country. Sorry, LGS rather, and 100% during the two periods for 2003 and 2013. And for Kanifing the same. And you can see here the blue line represents 2003, and the red is 2013. You can see a substantial increase in the urbanization for Brikama and Basse. The increase there is very marginal compared to other LGAs like Mansakonko, Kuntao, Janjampure. Yeah. So that is that shows that the trend in urbanization is increasing at a faster rate, particularly in the Brikama LGA. And for the national figure is 58, and from 50%. That shows that Gambia's urbanization is increasing at an increasing rate. This also shows the trend from 1950s, and you can see the trend and the projection in 2018. Gambia clocks 60% of the population lives in the urban area, and this trend will continue. And you can see that related to the rural line, which shows a decreasing trend. And also comparing Gambia with other the regional averages, the blue line is the African average, then the green is the West African average. And you can see the difference, how Gambia's rate of urbanization is increasing. The difference increases over time, and it becomes larger and larger. So we are far above the African and West African rate. And you can see here this graph too. This is also from the past population and housing census 2013, and the rate of migration here. Banjul is like 103 minus for the net migration, and compare that with Banjul and Kanifing. You can see more people are still coming to Banjul and Kanifing than any other regions. There is a negative rate for Masa Congo, Kerawan, and others and Pasay. And a description here will tell you that people are going to the west coast, that is the Brikama LGA more. The blue line is the origin, and the destination is the red line. And you can see Banjul almost, this graph is telling you that almost zero. It's at zero, and the blue line is at around more than around 300,000 people who are the origin of Banjul, but almost zero of these people are from the Banjul as their destination. But for Kanifing, you can see almost half of the origins compared to those who came to Kanifing and were not born in Kanifing. And you can see a very, very, very difference here. Those who came to Brikama far outweighs than those who were born in Brikama, almost more than 3 times that of those who were born. And other regions, if you look at it, you will have less of those who came and more of those who were living, or those who were born in those regions like Kerawan, Kuntaul, Masakonko, Janjanburi, and Pasay. So this is the difference. So the graph is telling us that urbanization, the rate of urbanization to Brikama LGA is increasing at a faster rate, like I presented in the other slides. So these are some of the outcomes. Urbanization will put pressure on certain land use covers. Like for example, the residential is one of the area that it will affect a lot. And you can see the number of compounds here. Sorry for that. The number of compounds, this is also the 2013 census figures. Looking at both the table and the graph, you will see a very, very huge increase in the number of compounds in Brikama LGA. 93.3% compared to other LGAs. You have Banjul and Kanifing, but Brikama is the LGA that is hugely affected. And Basse, the national figure here is 69% increase in the number of buildings, number of compounds rather. For total buildings, you can see the same. That is the red line. Brikama is the LGA mostly affected, and this is another finding from a research conducted by Agun Biade, if I pronounce it very 2017. Yeah, on mapping of mangrove forest and land cover along Gambia coastline using Landsat images for this particular period. And they have a very interesting finding here about, anyway, this study was focused on only the Greater Banjul. And you can see 16% of 16.9% of mangrove forest and 22% of agricultural land and 2.6% of water areas have been lost in the Greater Banjul area. But looking at the residential aspect of it, you have like 46% increase in the residential. So that is telling us that residents is taking some of these things. Because if you look at areas like Ibo Town, there are certain places that are waterlogged. Talinding, like for example, Talinding, Parakono, the Manjai, some places in Manjai, in Dipakunda, and different places within Greater Banjul areas. People started settling in those places that are meant for that are not meant for settlement. So that is the finding of this research, that it has an impact on the residential area. And this is a description, a picture anyway, trying to describe how population change in the urban area. This is Serekunda market. And if you can observe this very well, you will see this is the road that goes from Serekunda Mosque down to Latrikunda and D3. It's the same street you can see here, and the third picture here. And observing this picture, you see a lot of pictures, you see a lot of differences, and with the environment, how the increase in urbanization is affected. So this picture, the first one, where you have the taxi, you can see it was taken in 2000, in the year 2000. And the second picture, this one was taken in 2020, and this one was taken in 2023. But looking at the landscape itself, you see a lot of the environment looks very clean, and the population is not that much. And this vehicle, for example, can easily pass through this path without much hindrance. And it seems the picture was taken in the morning, because there is a woman just coming from shopping, and this is the time most Gambian women will usually do their shopping for the lunch. And looking at this picture, obviously we cannot see anything. So a vehicle obviously cannot pass through this. And looking at this one, this was in this market, and look at the landscape here. It looks, there is so much difference between here and here. You see a lot of littering around. And look at this in the past. The environment is really very clean. So this is what urbanization will do to our land. This is a framework which I developed. It's a problem tree, call it. Anyway, and linking showing the relationship between urbanization and land use. And this is the structural problem where it all starts. Uneven decentralization of social and economic resources, mainly education, health, and employment. Due to this, some of these recreational facilities in the rural area are not many. Employment is a problem there. Low access to education and health service delivery, and poverty is also high there. So this will lead to urban truth. And if we have that, these are some of the problems we will encounter: high population density, positive
How far are you
migration. Now? Okay, I have 3 slides to conclude. So I just want to show the path here, the pathway. Pressure in available social and environmental economic resources will happen in the urban area. High housing scarcity will emerge, high cost of rent, as we are currently going through, illegal settlement, like I presented before, increasing urban poverty. Then this will lead to this environment and land use related problems. We have a lot of vehicle population, the industries, the waste disposal as presented by Dr. Baji, and we have issues of flooding that leads to pollution, climate change, biodiversity is all affected. And at the end of the day, poor health, the health system will also be affected. So this is how population increase affects it. And this is just a rundown of some structures that are available in place in the country. And these are some of the documents based on the report from the Office of the President, rather. These are some of the strategies and policies in place that the government is implementing to address our environmental problem issues. Yeah, these are some of the policy recommendations based on what is presented above. I don't know whether I have to read all these things, but so in order to address our problems, we need to implement certain policies and strategies. And among them, the most critical of it is land policy. Gambia doesn't have any land policy as we speak. and we didn't also have an urbanization policy. So these two are very critical. And also, there is no, I don't think there is any institution that is given the mandate to coordinate urban development issues. I don't think this, because we didn't even have an urban policy. So that will be very important to do, and to have some advocacy, to do some recycling as well. So I know my time is finished. So these are the recommendations. Maybe if anybody's interested, I can share it. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it is important to share this one with you because the research you highlighted, I think those information are very important to get through. Thank you once again, Ms. Ismaila. On your governance slide, I saw that the JIP is mentioned, but let me just stated that there is an updated version of JIP, that's the Gambia Environment Action Plan. So maybe just take note of that. And I was going to ask you a question about the dynamics of urbanization and its impact on land use, but it is clearly stated. You've clearly mentioned in your presentation, and I think it's well understood. So one of the questions I have, or two questions I have, is that like from the pictures we've seen, it is clearly noticed that the greater Banjul area is 100% congested. And the graph indicated that. So that means that there's not going to be much developments taking place in this greater Banjul area. Otherwise, we're going to create more environmental challenges. But the problem now is urbanization cannot be separated from rural urban drift. And this has created land subsidence because, of course, we always talk about land use, land cover changes because of this rural urban drift. And waste collection becomes a challenge. And you, as an expert in this area, so let me ask you a question on what strategies can be put in place to address rural urban drift.
Okay, I am unmuted. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Comma, Doctor. I think based on what is in this slide here, there are some strategies which I have highlighted in these strategies. And I think I didn't just have a time to present everything. And you can see that urbanization is a problem in Gambia, especially it is affecting the West Coast region most right now. Yeah, so at certain point in time, the West Coast region might also become 100% urbanized. And a lot of strategies that the government can bring forward, and one of that is to address the social and economic problems that we have, particularly in the rural areas, to have a quality health service delivery available in the rural areas. If you go to some facilities, for example, health facilities in the rural areas, some facilities doesn't have a doctor. Some have only one doctor. Like Jara Soma recently, they have a doctor, but you will go to some facilities, there is no doctor in that particular. So if we invest more in health services, this can help mitigate it. And school is also another area, education, to invest more in education, not only on the availability of schools, but as well as the quality of education in the rural area is lower compared to the quality in the urban area. So every young person or a child want to come to the campus to receive education. So all these things will put pressure on urbanization. So these are some of the factors that play a very critical role. And employment, because a bigger chunk of our population are youth. And when they reach certain level of certain age, they will want to, have a job. They will want to be engaged in something. So in the provinces, the only source of employment there is mostly farming. If you do not farm, you have a very less likelihood of being employed in the government, for example, within the rural areas. The chances are very slim. So to have decentralized structures in the rural areas, like in Masakonkos, so this will also have to address the urban drift. Maybe I will stop here.
Thank you. Also, how am I going to frame that? From what Dr. Caesar's presentation, it is in relation to that. We have seen that, okay, let's use Banjul as an example. She mentioned that the highest point in the country is even less than 100 meters, and you cannot find that one within the greater Banjul area, maybe far when you go hinterland. And the highest point in Banjul is less than 1 meter above sea level. So you can imagine what is going to happen if we have a sea level rise in the country. So my question now is, because of these areas are seriously congested and the land mass in Banjul is going down a bit, and we call that our capital. What do you have to say about that? Whether do you recommend that we have an alternate site for a capital, or well, what do you have to say?
Yeah, thank you, Larry. I think this have been a debate between Gambians, especially Banjulians. The capital being in Banjul, and we have seen the sea is becoming increasingly coming up, and the government have taken some steps to ensure that the sea is being moved back by removing sand from the sea. That those interventions have been undertaken. And I think maybe I'm not an expert in environmental issues anyway. But government have taken those steps anyway to ensure that the sea level is being moved so much so that it won't affect life on the land.
Here we
Yeah.
are looking at the impact of urbanization on land use cover, and using Banjul as an example.
Exactly, exactly. That's what because people are moving from Banjul. Every year, people are moving out of Banjul. In fact, as presented in the presentation, you can, with all indication, you can see that one solution is for people to live. Even Banjulians are living Banjul. That could be one solution. Yes, to encourage people, because you never know when disaster will come, and if it strikes, you never know what will happen at the end of the day. Yeah, maybe I think that's what I have.
Thank you. Dr. Caesar, do you have any supplementary question for him?
Thank you, Koma. I think maybe before the question, just we can make Banjul a floating city first, and maybe people will stay. Anyway, I was wondering, as the population seems to be increasing exponentially, in your research, did you come to find a prediction for the tipping point? And if there is, what do you think should be done at practical level?
Sorry, prediction for
Tipping point. As the population keeps increasing exponentially.
yeah. Yeah, Gambia, anyway, our population growth rate, based on the previous census, is 3.3. That's a big figure. But when you compare that with the level of fertility right now, which is 4.4, the national level, the level of fertility is coming down at a very low rate. So if the census is being conducted, we will see a very big difference between the previous rate of population growth, which is 3.3. Because right now our fertility rate has really come down at a very big margin. If you compare Gambia to many West African countries, we are far ahead of them in terms of fertility. because based on the current DHS survey that was conducted in 2019-2022, Gambia's fertility rate is 4.3, and you have three in the urban areas who have like three children per woman in most of the urban areas. So we are addressing that, and there are a lot of strategies and activities. In fact, my office is involved in some of those interventions. Like we have been partnering with UNFPA to address our population problem. We cannot avoid it entirely, like the population growth, but we can always manage at certain point to ensure that it doesn't affect like life of the citizen.
Thank you. Um, Let me just ask you one question. Maybe otherwise I will leave it when it comes to the general. But in this case, we are seeing a lot of real estate dealers coming in, proliferation of real estate, and their impact on the fragile ecosystem also is another issue. So that also needs to be looked at. So I will leave that for now. So maybe when we are at the general question and answer, you may talk about that one. Thank you. Yeah.